I guess my first question is, what is it like for you to watch that? What are the emotions?
That is interesting, because I probably haven't seen it since the last network testing session, and they're the most painful moments in a writer's life, doing one of those testing group things where they bring in 100 people from the Valley and have them all. You're on the other side of a one-way mirror, and you watch them watch the show, and then above you there's a monitor that tracks what they're liking and not liking, and it's 22 minutes of just pure agony, and you're hoping and praying for laughter. And what's funny, most of my career I've been doing 1 hour stuff, and if you fail at drama, it doesn't hurt so bad. Because you're not expecting laughs. Laughter, like getting people to laugh, that's hard. And when a comedy fails, it hurts so much more than when a drama fails. So there are key moments in the show when you're surrounded by network executives watching these people, and you think, here's a joke. Didn't work. And the room is silent, and the dials stay flat. It hurts badly. Honestly, this was more pleasant. I was preparing. I was preparing for agony, and I was actually pleased with the room's response. It was like, yeah, I know it's not a great pilot. It is not a home run pilot. When you go through the process, there are usually, there are pilots that test out of the park, and everyone knows they're going to go on the air, and then there are pilots that that just sink terribly, and everyone knows they're not going to go on the air. We were in that sort of range of sometimes they go, sometimes they don't. I was actually pleasantly surprised. I have to tell you, I have, early in my career when I was shooting the Cupid pilot, the network really wanted Steven Weber for this role, and he was just coming off Wings, so he had just done a ton of stuff, and I like Steven Weber, but I wanted someone darker, which is funny because now I've worked with Steven quite a few times, and he actually can go very dark. But I ended up going with Jeremy Piven. But the point of the story is that they wanted me to see everything that Steven Weber had done, and he had just shot this movie written and directed by Larry David called Sour Grapes. And it wasn't out yet, and they sent the director of my pilot and me to the Castle Rock screening room to watch this movie before it came out. And I am a huge, I love Larry David. I love Seinfeld. I love his show, Curbed. But Sour Grapes did not work. It did not work on any level. So the director and I were sitting alone in this screening room for the first 40 minutes of it, not laughing, and kind of looking at our watches and thinking, can we sneak out? We've seen what we need to see. No one's in here with us, we'll just walk out. And then you feel the lights come in from the back of the room, and we look up, and Larry David comes and sits right behind us for the last 45 minutes of it. And now I feel compelled to laugh at anything close to a joke. And that's what I thought of when I walked in the room. I thought, oh, you poor people. You know I'm here. You're going to, that pressure of, oh, it better not be crickets. And then just the footnote to that story is afterwards, Larry David had already been through a couple testing sessions. He knew it was in trouble. And he was sort of debriefing us on what worked and what didn't. And I was this deer in headlights. I was just wide-eyed and silent. And happily, the director found some things to say to Larry David. When Curbed came on, if you ever go back and watch Curbed from the beginning, I think they did like an hour or 2 hour movie to kick it off, special. And then the first episode of the series, I think one of the very first scenes, a neighbor comes over from across the street and returns the VHS tape of Sour Grapes to Cheryl, who has lent it to the neighbor. And Cheryl, in this case, starts saying to the neighbor, "What'd you think of Sour Grapes? How did you like it?" And I swear Larry David used me as the neighbor. It was just this guy, or actually I think it was a woman, who just stood there panicked and wide-eyed, unable to speak. Although I suspect he may have had that reaction from a few people. But I watch it and I, oh shit, that was me. Anyway, that was a long answer to a short question.
Well, you talked about the testing process, and this pilot is a little bit different because you did it twice. You did it for the May development season, then you sort of got strung along and did it again for later in the fall. How was it different in the May version versus the later version, and what were the different testing processes like?
The final act, it was interesting. The first version, you're looking at the second version of the pilot, and this was a tough process for me. When I don't have a show on the air, I make all of my money writing television pilots. Like, that's how I get paid if I don't have a show on the air. And when they decided to redo the pilot, it took me out of pilot season. So I actually initially said, I don't want to do it. And at a certain point, they said, okay, we get that. And then the network and studio presidents decided that I did want to do it. So I was in this awful place, like, I can't pay my rent, but let's do it again. It wasn't quite that bad, but it was not good. And in the first version, the entire third act is much different, and it all hinges around a little edgier humor, and I was trying to get to like playing up. I don't know if that's quite the word, but there becomes a racial incident in the first half of in the last act of the show. There's still the issue of Donovan getting beamed by the ball, and the daughter, what's her, Ellie,
Minnie, I think?
Minnie. Thank you. And the daughter overhears her dad saying, "We don't want our kids playing with beaners," and that gets repeated, and the end is almost like a brawl between the three families, and the network said that they didn't want to go that direction. Now, that said, I mean, but they've got, this is a network that has Family Guy on the air. By those standards, tame. By All in the Family, tame. Like, people just will not go to that place anymore. And for Rob Corddry, like, he loved that final act. He loved how uncomfortable. And by the way, Rob Corddry, as the horrified dad, this horrified liberal dad, feeling like he's at the root of this problem, was fantastic in it. So Rob Corddry was really bummed by. He felt like, okay, now we're going soft and sweet on the second version. So it was tricky. Yeah.
Do you get Schadenfreude during pilot season? Do you start seeing all of the other pilots you're going against? Do you sort of put your ear to the vine trying to find out what's testing better or worse? Do you do that at all?
Every writer in television just survives on Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude, and it's just a thing in the tray. Like, even artists who I really adore, I have that I have that feeling with. Why are they making it? Yeah, and yet, in terms of, I'm certainly hoping for the best, and I'm interested in gossip. I feel like there are people who are really dialed into the buzz and the gossip, and I never get that way, not because I'm not interested, but because I'm not dedicated enough to go to the right sources to find all that stuff out.
But do you watch and sort of see the things that they chose over you? Do you go, okay, well, that lasted 5 episodes, and the executives who picked these other things, they lasted 1.
Oh, that. I mean, well, we went through this thing with Fox. Sometimes you walk away and you hate the executives. This was not that with Fox. Had we delivered what I thought was a fantastic pilot and hadn't gone on, it would have been a different story. Or had they given us notes that we thought destroyed it, I might have felt that way. And certainly, I had, my last experience at ABC was awful, and when all those executives started getting fired, I did not shed any tears. But in this case, with Fox, no. One of the things that doomed us, honestly, was when we were doing this pilot, they had just done very well with New Girl. And so that comedy slot that we were all fighting for, if there had been another family show in that slot, I would have felt like we would have gotten onto the air because it was that close. But with New Girl, it did not feel like, we felt like that's a pairing that's very weird. New Girl and Little in Common would have been an odd block.
Well, what did the notes say?
I can barely remember. Sometimes there are jokes that I want to cut that they want back in. Sometimes, there are jokes that I want in that they want to cut. But it's been so many years now, I can't really remember the specifics. I remember the big thing between version 1 and version 2, but I can't remember the specific notes.
Now, you are prone to nostalgia. You went back, you did Cupid again. You've done Veronica Mars in many different forms. Does this sort of stick in your craw? Do you sort of every once in a while go, boy, I have another version of this I would love to get a chance to put out there? Creatively, this one doesn't pain me. Just in all honesty. It does, however, I think if I had Kevin Hart on a network sitcom right now, I would be a very rich man. And that hurts badly. Fox has to look at Kevin Hart, Kevin Williamson too, and think, if only. And I fought very hard for Kevin Hart. There were a couple other actors that they wanted, even actors who I was a fan of, but Kevin had done a Party Down episode of ours that was, and I loved him so much. He was so good in it, and was such a good guy on set. If I had been Fox, fire me, fire everyone else, but keep Kevin Hart and Rob Corddry on your network. Now, it strikes me, Kevin Hart gets an MTV Movie Award or something, and the entire introduction to his speech is one short joke after another. It's, 10 minutes of short jokes. You have a show that stars Kevin Hart. It's called Little in Common, and you have 0 Kevin Hart short jokes. Did that require restraint on your part?
Well, I wrote it before I cast Kevin, so it didn't require any restraint. I wanted Kevin, but I didn't know if I would get him, and it would not have worked with. I would have had to rewrite for Anthony Anderson. I suppose I could have added some when we did it the second time, but and I have no doubt that if we'd gotten to do 50 episodes, we would have found our way to some sort of short jokes.
Now, okay, you talked about how you make your living between shows on pilots. The pilot process is this insanely inefficient and unwieldy thing where each year these networks do 10, 12 things and they pick up 3, and that means that 9 are like this, at least to some degree. What is, from the outside, your perspective on it, and does the pilot process feel different to you in the years when you actually have something that gets picked up as opposed to a year like this?
It's tough to say dismantle the pilot system. It would be like biting the hand that feeds me. I'm glad that they order 80 pilot scripts because I need to get paid. I want to send my children to college. So if it is wasteful and inefficient, so be it. It's but it would be so tough the other way, and like the way, say, Netflix is doing it, at least initially it was almost like bring us a complete package and we will say yes or no to series without shooting pilots, without shooting competing pilots. Bring us Fincher and Spacey and a product we know that works from Britain and we'll make that. And if that's then I actually don't know that that would be good for television, and that everything will be prepackaged. It will not, there is a bit in the pilot season of survival of the fittest, and it's a kind of a crazy meritocracy, and but at least you as the little guy have a shot going against the high prestige names. Like, you are in direct competition. In a world where you take that out, it will just be the people they know and trust who have done it before who get everything on the air.
Which do you feel that you are these days? Do you feel like the person that they know and trust, or do you still feel like the little guy?
Well, I'm not the little guy, but I've never had a hit show. And there's a real dividing line. When you have a hit show, I imagine that everything changes. Suddenly, you are a hit maker. I have created critical darlings, and they don't give a shit about that. That's very nice, Rob. So it's, yeah, I mean, I am a writer who I can go in, and if I develop a pitch, I can't remember the last time that I didn't develop a pitch and get it at least a script order. So I'm at that level. I'm not at the level where it's Rob Thomas wants to do a show, green light. So it's good. It could be better.
Since we are in Austin, I wanted to talk a bit about the Austinness of this and how much you were hoping to do more Austinness with it, and if specificity is actually a good thing in Hollywood.
When I moved back to Austin 6 years ago, my hope and prayer was that I would be producing shows and not commuting to Los Angeles. And not that I actually love LA, and LA was great when I was single and 30, but I'm now a married family man, a couple months from 50, and I would prefer to be in Austin. And when I moved, a lot happened that year. We had Party Down on Starz that we thought we were going into a third season. And I had just sold a show to Starz about the Austin music scene that seemed to be going forward. I thought I was going to be moving home, doing I thought I was going to have 2 shows on Starz. And this Austin music scene show, it was going to be 10 a year, and I was going to try to write all 10 scripts and direct half of them and have it really be my baby. And I'll just live in Austin, be a hometown hero, employ a television crew, and I was very excited about that. And then all the Starz executives who we knew and loved got fired and a new president of Starz came in, and they had a huge hit with Spartacus. Like Party Down, the executives who were there when we brought it there were so proud of the show, they would have let us keep doing it if only 60 people watched, because they were the right 60. But when the new executive who did not develop the show, it's not their baby. They just kind of look at the numbers, and we weren't doing huge numbers. And then they did really big numbers with Spartacus. So I actually moved back to Austin thinking I had 2 shows at Starz, and it turns out I had 0. So both of those went away. But that would have been a great life. That was, like, creatively, if, would have liked that. And creatively, that Austin band show, yeah, I played in a band here in town for 9 years in my 20s, and I know a lot about playing in an unsuccessful band in Austin. It would have been written from the heart.
And is that one that you still feel nostalgic about?
That, yes. Like, if there's one that I would pull out of the drawer and say, please let me make this, it's that one.
Okay, I want to make sure that if anyone in the crowd has anything, I don't know that we have mics. Okay, there's a question right there.
Hello. I was wondering when you're developing pilot stories and you're building these worlds, how do you decide what to put in the pilot and what is being for a later episode?
Pilots are so hard. They're so hard because they want to see, like, the notes. They want to see every character defined, and yet they also want to see a sample of what we're gonna see going forward. And every pilot I've ever done, ends up 10 minutes long when it's shot, and then it's the brutal thing of cutting. And you have moments of exposition in there that you don't want, that the network wants very badly. And so that's always a battle. It's a bit different every time out. It's so hard to do a great pilot because of all the demands that they're putting on you in that episode.
I saw that it said copyright 2011. I'm not sure when he made it, but I feel like now, especially this past season with Blackish and Fresh Off the Boat, I feel like this would do really.
Yes.
Like, I'm really sad they didn't make it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, if I do, like I say, I don't. It's not a hit it out of the park home run. I keep using baseball analogy for this, but I think it was. I think it was a pilot that had potential. I think the rough edges we could have gotten straightened out. And yes, with Blackish or Fresh Off the Boat, that would have been that's a great block. We would have fit in very well if we could have been paired up with one of those.
Had you already gotten to the point where you were starting to sort of gestate second and third episodes and already decide what tweaks you were going to be making off the pilot?
Probably. Probably. I mean, they do start asking you for storylines, and yet I don't remember them.
Wasn't sure if any of them came back to you while watching.
Speaking of baseball analogies, what would you think of a more sports-like, instead of pilot season, where like you develop pilots and then they get drafted by a network, like the Mini Project got drafted by Fox and now has been traded. Like that, or like it doesn't work because sometimes you got a really great show like this, which if it had been on Fox might not have really worked in that block, but could have been traded to ABC or NBC and fit in with their.
Well, they can kind of trade. I mean, if they want to make those deals. But what happens? I took out this pitch for Little in Common, and I think I had multiple networks that wanted it at the time, and you pick the one where you think you're gonna, the one that has the most enthusiasm, or the one who's going to, pay a penalty if they don't make it. Like you're sometimes, if you're lucky, in that position of getting to choose your network, and you always choose the one, who has slots open, who's most enthusiastic in the room, and you place that bet. At that point, the network you don't choose feels that they're annoyed with you. They're already pissed at you. And then they go and develop their own scripts, and they get their hands on those scripts, and those executives have their notes in those scripts, and they said, put a dog in that scene, and there's a dog in that scene, so it becomes theirs. And so at the end of it, they don't, even though a studio would be totally willing to, hey, Fox didn't pick it up, ABC, you want it now? They're like, no, that's somebody else's business. They didn't, it's just psychologically they want to put the stuff they developed, that they had a helping hand on. Occasionally it happens. I mean, there are certainly stories of it happening, but it's a rare thing. More often now, and you're seeing this a lot more now with shows like the Mindy Project, it's not doing the numbers that Fox wants it to. So, but it will be. Who bought it? Hulu. Yeah, but Hulu's probably very excited about bringing those sorts of numbers to them. So I think that's sort of the new reality, which is great for shows. And I've been in this category many times of rating-starved show that has a devoted following. That's great.
Well, has that changed who you particularly are pitching things to? Like, do you find yourself looking more towards the smaller and more niche broadcast or networks rather than going towards broadcast, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox?
I've tried to have my hand in sort of both worlds. Some ideas feel like a broadcast network pitch. You come up with them, and also you make more money selling to them. So when I write pilots, you get a certain amount of pay for your first position pilot, the one that if it goes, it supersedes any other pilots, and they will pay you top dollar for that. And then you have what's called the second position pilot, where if first position pilot goes, you're not. They know that they're only buying you if that doesn't go and your second show goes, and you get sort of steeped down on each one. And it's hard to turn down sometimes the big broadcast network, the bigger paycheck, especially if it's the one you're counting on, to sell to a smaller network. It's a luxury when you can do that. I should have a smaller house and more artistic integrity.
Okay, let's just want to make sure if there's anyone in the back who has anything, because we've been going front. Okay.
How many pilots are you saying you're writing per pilot season? And is it just you, or do you have a team of people that you collaborate with constantly?
Like when I am just in development, I've tried to sell 3 a year, and usually I've done that. When I have a show on the air, I may or may not develop a pilot behind that. But like right now, it would be so, it will and would be so hard for me to write another pilot. But I have my hands in a couple other things. So 3 when I'm not doing anything else, and then after that I sort of play it by ear.
You mentioned the hierarchy.
Oh, and I'm sorry, and I have a producing partner named Dan Etheridge, who has been with me for the last 15 years, and Dan will sort of be my sounding board for ideas, and but I don't work with other writers normally, other than on iZombie. They came to me with the iZombie comic book. Warner Brothers did and said, please develop this. It was when I was editing the Veronica Mars movie, and I was already writing a pilot for Fox. And I did not have enough time, and I said, well, can I write it with Diane? And they said yes to that. So that would be the first first situation where I've written a pilot. Oh, well, I guess Party Down, a group of us wrote it together. Yeah, actually, I guess I've done that a bunch. I don't know.
You mentioned the hierarchy of the sort of the first position, second position, third position, but when you're doing 3 pilots in a year, how do you avoid having one of them just be the paycheck pilot, one that you really, really want to go, and then the one that's the middle child? Like, how do you not play favorites with those?
I mean, you may have favorite ideas as you go in, and this is the one I'm most passionate about. I mean, and it's interesting, and iZombie would be maybe one of the first where I was not emotionally invested in it. The 2 things before that I'm probably most known for, Veronica Mars and Party Down, those were such passion projects. Veronica Mars was a spec script. I just wrote that not getting paid for it because I wanted it and believed in it. And then Party Down, we actually initially pitched it to HBO and they bought it. They hated our outline, and we walked away from there. Then we developed it at FX. They were lovely to us, but they felt like it didn't match up with their only other comedy, It's Only Sunny. And so they reluctantly didn't make it. And we believed in that one so much that we shot it with our own money, and then went out and pitched the DVD of it to various networks. So in the past, the things that have gone very well for me have been these passion projects that I wouldn't let go of. iZombie, I had to be dragged into, not because I couldn't see the potential of it, but it wasn't my idea. I mean, it was based on a comic book. I was so busy at the time. I did it because the head of Warner Brothers Development is someone I trust and respect, and she would not let me say no. But now I'm having the best time on iZombie. It has been it's usually first-year shows are so tough. Studio and network have an idea of what the show is supposed to be. You have an idea of what the show you want to do is, and then you fight for a year to try to get what you want and something that makes them happy. Kind of from episode 1 on iZombie, they have been great and supportive. It's a lot of work, but when everyone's going in the same direction, I'm just, it's it's still work, but it's fun to go to work on iZombie.
Well, thank you so much for going down this memory lane nostalgia trip with us, and thank all of you for attending this morning.
And thank you very much. Thanks for coming out.